So, Neil, this is our very first podcast episode, and I think it is appropriate to have you because you're kind of the brains and the idea behind this operation, and what an honor to have you ask me to host. So, I'm excited, and I don't know actually kind of a lot about Pulse, which is funny. It sort of just fell into my lap because we obviously have the common person of Julie, but what awesome opportunity to be working with Pulse. So, why don't you tell the people who are you? Who is Neil Huber?
Who's Neil? But yeah, no, for sure. Before we even get into that, I think that when we were talking as sort of a team and we were thinking about the idea a couple months ago about a podcast and what do we want the podcast to be? We kind of wanted something that we were missing, right? And something that we were missing was just like text talking to text, right? Somewhere, like we've all been in, the x-ray department or the radiology department, and, you sit around, you're waiting for your next case, and, you're just sort of chit-chatting, like it's sort of like, a chill, the calm before the storm. And I felt like a podcast, especially nowadays with COVID, is just sort of a good, I guess, platform to just sort of talk tech, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, when we were thinking on the team, like, are we gonna like try and recruit somebody? And then, we were just kind of thinking like, wait a minute, we have Kelsey on the team. Like, we all like, I have a lisp, Julie doesn't like to talk too much. Roberta, she's so quiet. And they were like, and then we have Kelsey, who's just like, so like on point, and like, she only talks when she has to, and it's clear, it's clean cut. So we couldn't pick a better host for this podcast. And I can tell you from everyone at the team, we are super stoked to have you as sort of the queen of the podcast scene.
Well, thanks. I hope I don't let you guys down.
No, you'll be all right. Don't worry about it. And again, it's just kind of just talking tech. That's pretty much it. But yeah, so tough question. Starting off hard. Who's Neil? Wow, it took me like 34 years to get to that answer. First time ever hearing that. But if we're kind of going to talk off the cuff and we're going to talk loose, I would say sort of, I would compare me to sort of a mullet, business in the front, party in the back, right? And, listen, it's all about sort of having fun in what you do. You got to find something that you love, sort of early on in my college days. And I'll kind of get into that and sort of how I got into it. But it's just something that I truly like passionately love to do. Just sort of being in the clinical scene for many years in MRI and X-ray, it's really all about the patient. And, I was a patient, we're all patients. So you kind of want to be treated like how you want to treat people, how you want to be treated. Right. So that's sort of like the common theme that I always like tell people. And more importantly, what I tell myself. So everything always sort of comes back down to the patient. So who's Neil? Mullet, business in front, party in the back. I really like to essentially like create something with quality. I like to kind of put my best foot forward. But in the back, I like to have a lot of fun. So, with COVID times right now, obviously being in New York, it's sort of like just, we're quarantining, my wife and I are taking it very seriously, and we can't wait till we get sort of herd immunity and start partying again. I think like the mullet is a little short right now, but we will grow it back out once COVID kind of simmers down. But
absolutely.
There you go.
I think a lot of people can relate to that. I think we're all ready for that. So really basic, like why MRI? Why the imaging world? I mean, when you graduate high school, right, as an American, it's like, okay, you got to go to school and you got to figure out what you're going to do at the age of 18. Yeah. So why MRI? Why imaging?
Wow, it's a great question, and weird. It's actually funny, but also somewhat serious. So we're gonna keep it light. But when I was 16 years old and in high school, I was very competitive in basketball. So went to a very small school called Cathedral Prep Seminary, shout out, in Queens. And again, very small school, but we were really we had some really good athletes there. But during my junior year, we were doing sort of this training drill. It's actually called the Manhattan drill, and it's a long drill where it's a full court run back and forth for like 10 minutes. And I was playing the role of like the center at that point, and there was a lot of running, and I actually blacked out. and like just like right on the floor.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, crazy. So they like pulled me off, and like I went to get like a physical. And again, at this point, what are you, a junior in high school? So what is that, like 18 or 17 or 18, right? So they were like, why does a 17-year-old have high blood pressure? You know, so very weird. So we went to the doctor, and they found out, they did ultrasounds on me. They've done everything on me. They finally did the ultrasound of my abdomen, and they found out that I have polycystic kidneys. So I have a disease called polycystic kidney disease. I was diagnosed when I was 17. We found out through this basketball drill, right? And yeah, so basically, one other thing that I love to do is sort of bring awareness to it, right? So PKD awareness, shout out. PKD Foundation, donate. And it's sort of the Donate Life is attributed to sort of organ transplants and donations. So that's one thing that the PKD Foundation like focuses on.
Neat.
In fact, at our wedding, Tara and I's wedding, we had for the favor, it was to donate to the PKD Foundation and to Donate Life, and we gave out the bands and all that. So that was kind of cool. But yeah, so how did that lead me to MRI and radiology and so on and so forth? So being sort of at this range in time, this whole detour in my life of being basketball, sort of went into like hospital. So kind of, a bummer, but, being 17 and very young, very politically correct. One day I was getting an x-ray and I said, hey, like, how much money do you make? Straight up, like, how much money do you make?
I love it.
Yeah. And mind you, this is like 2003. So mind you, it's 2003. And I, hopefully that would be great if like that guy was still working. But anyways, so, I asked how much you make, and he goes, $59,000. I was like, damn, this guy's rich. Like, this guy is rich. He's making tons of money. And I'm like, interesting. So that was sort of like where radiology was first introduced to me. And then sort of, you go into senior, and it was myself and my really good friend Mike Minetta and a couple other guys that it was sort of like our year to shine as seniors, and I like totally stunk. Like I like sucked. I like really was not good at basketball that year. Like I got an ankle injury earlier this summer, and it's sort of like that's when I was like, all right, it's time to wrap up the basketball career. And so at that point, you're sort of applying to colleges and all these things, and the colleges that I wanted to go to were DeSales University in Scranton, St. Bonaventure, Cortland. Getting the theme, they were all away from my parents. So that was the big thing. And my mom, being my mom, she wants us all close by. So
sure.
Basically, she was like, no, you're going to apply to St. Francis College in Brooklyn. You're going to apply to St. John's University in Queens. And sure enough, I applied to St. Francis, and I ended up getting a full scholarship. It was a presidential 4-year scholarship there. And I did not want to go to St. Francis. And I ended up having no choice because I got no full scholarships anywhere. And it just so happened that all the roads came back together, and they had a bachelor's of radiological sciences there.
I love it.
That was sort of where, the whole PKD thing came in, and then the school, and I had no choice. And there you go. So that was the kindling of the fire in the field of radiology for Neil.
Very good. I love that. Oh, and a full ride. I'm jealous.
Yeah. Oh my Lord. But
good for you.
Hopefully everyone else that wants to be a tech doesn't have to go through that, but just.
Right. Okay. So then did you do x-ray and then MRI, or just like straight MRI?
Yeah. Great question. And again, it's like, back, like, so this is around 2008, 2009 at this point. And to go from like x-ray to MR, that was like a tough thing to do. Like there was no, like, for example, Pulse Radiology, no pitch really, not really. But there was no like real place to sort of go to get like your quality education that also offered clinical training.
Okay.
So the battle was like, where am I going to get my cases? And I think that's like I think a lot of us would probably think, back then, where do you get your cases? Like, how do you get into, and like, say you're an x-ray tech in an urgent care center, they don't have MRI. How are you going to get your cases?
Right.
So you can't become eligible until you get those cases. So I was fortunate enough to take my first job at Doshi Diagnostics in Brooklyn Avenue. They were bought over by RadNet Lennoxville Radiology,
Okay.
and in that realm, I was sort of, the new guy crushing X-rays like 35, 40 a day, like crushing, straight crushing. And one day, the MRI tech, he was like going back. He was going on vacation for like 3 weeks, and MRI being the biggest cash driver in a radiology department, they can't just shut down MRI. So the lead technologist who was running the site was like, "Hey, youngin, you want to learn how to scan some MRI?" So like and knowing that, I was like, yes, of course I want to do MRI. Like that is what I want to do. Like just Neil, shut up and just say yes. Like you don't know what you're doing, but just say yes. So like, yes, we go. And the guy didn't want to train me. He was like totally like job security. I'd ask him questions. I'd be sitting there with my like Holly Hobby notebook, and I'd be like, "Let's take notes, right?" And he was just like not having it. So he ended up going away for those 3 weeks, and I covered for those 3 weeks. They booked like routine lumbar spines, C spines, knees, and I did it. Like I just was forced to do it, and I feel like that's the best way to do it. Like get thrown in the trench.
Yep.
And just learn it. Like you have no choice. Like survival of the fittest.
Yep.
So that's kind of how I went from X-ray into MRI, and it kind of went right in. Like it was like 3 weeks crushing those X-rays, and then MRI. So very fortunate, very fortunate. And that's why I always say, like, take your opportunities when they come. Don't say, well, I got a nice job right now. Like, do I really want to risk that? Like, opportunity comes, I always say take it. Like, just take
agree.
it.
Absolutely. Yep. I love that.
Yeah.
So then you went from a tech. I don't actually know this story for anyone listening. I'm not just like prompting Neil to tell us a story, but then, and I call it, then he eventually became a bigwig, but I actually don't know what your position was eventually. Like, I guess it was your last full-time job before you started doing Pulse full-time.
Yeah, pretty much. So funny enough, and speaking of wigs, sooner or later I'm probably gonna need one. But my first job was sort of that Doshi job, and then I went to MRI there, and then that was when I was kind of really got serious and was like, I need to get my MRI license. So, I really kind of tried to do as many different cases as I can so I can log them, and then I ended up taking the test. So once I got my certification, I stayed there for like a couple of years, and there's just like things were changing, and I was just looking for like a new vibe, a new environment, and I applied for a job at Hospital for Special Surgery in New York City. And for those in New York, obviously you know where HSS is, but for those who don't, Hospital for Special Surgery is the #1 orthopedic hospital in the nation and likely in the world for the last 13 years in a row.
Wow.
Crazy. So it's like the best place to go. And when I went for the interview, and I'm not going to say who I saw because that's just a HIPAA violation, but I went in for my interview, and it was super early, and I'm again still like wet behind the ears, young guy, and I'm just like shell shocked that I'm like in this big institution, and I'm sitting there, and I saw like these like 3 actors, and I'm like actor, actress, and I'm like, am I like in the wrong place? Like, are they? Well, first, I hope they're not interviewing for the job. #1. #2, like, where am I right now? So I was just sort of sitting there, and I think they forgot about me because I sat there for like 2.5 hours.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it just goes to show you like how bad I wanted this job. And so I go up after like 2.5 hours. I'm like, hi, is so and so here? And they were like, oh, right, we had an interview with you today. Yeah, sure, hang on one second. Go on back, we'll come get you in like 10 minutes. 45 minutes passed, and he finally came and got me.
No.
So yeah. So being that it's a very strict orthopedic hospital, they don't do like the whole big realm of different cases. It's joints, baby. It's C-spines, knees, that's it. You're a pro if you're at HSS.
Right.
And shout out to all my HSS colleagues. Love you guys. And so you kind of, the one downside is you kind of miss doing like the abdomens and the brains and all that stuff. So you kind of get a little rusty, but again, it's sort of a place you want to go and you want to stay. Met so many amazing people. The radiologists are amazing. My fellow techs were amazing. Just like administration was amazing. So my wife is still working there. So it's sort of like a family atmosphere. But yeah, and then I sort of kind of went, as I was growing, I went to Hofstra University for my MBA. And then, us techs, like, what kind of business skills do we have? Like I went in there, I'm like, I did my schooling, I was like, let me go try it. And, like the first class was like financial statements, income tax, all this stuff. I'm like, wait, what? Why do I have to know this? And like for so many like cash flow statements, income sheets, balance sheets, and I'm just like profit and loss statements. And I'm just like, why do I have to know this? Sure enough, I deal with this stuff every day now. And thank God, I actually went to MBA school. So definitely something that teaches you sort of an overall, I always say college, so like your bachelor's, is where you learn like to work, and then like an MBA is where you learn to like live. Like you learn to like do your own taxes. You know how to market. You know how to market yourself. You know how to sell something. Like you learn these like very easy skills that you think are easy, but they're really not. So
I like that.
yeah.
Good for you for doing that while working full time and all the things. That is a full plate. Okay, so then what ultimately was, so did you have the idea to go create a company before you got your MBA, or you just got your MBA, you just were ultimately wanting to like move up the corporate ladder, and then a light bulb went off like there is a need for this in the marketplace?
Yeah. So actually, I think Barack Obama, and the reason why is because he passed something called Obamacare. And Obamacare is being able to, what they enforced was if you're getting an MRI for the hospital or imaging center to get full reimbursement, you have to have a certified MRI tech scanning that case. So pre-Obamacare, you had X-ray tech scanning MRI. No one was really credentialed. It was sort of, laissez-faire.
Yeah.
When Obamacare hit, it was sort of like, I call it the credential gold rush, where everyone just sort of went, like all the hospital employee, like administrators, they required it. Like you have 6 months to get your MRI certification, because, if you don't have it, we're not getting reimbursed. So now, so when that happened, and that was in 2009, kind of right after he came to office, and me being one of the only credentialed techs, because I was like the first hire where you had to have your MRI certification.
Okay.
So me coming in, a lot of my fellow colleagues were like, hey, listen, what was on the test? And, do you have any information? Do you, what kind of books do you recommend? And I was like, well, I got a whole bunch of notes. I just kind of made them on my own over the years. So I like handed them out, and like people would come to me and say, like, what do you mean by like T1 relaxation? Or, what's, what's the up and down spin rates, and, different parameter questions and artifacts and all these things. And I like just sort of like, I didn't know it like off the top of my head. I would research it, and then I would explain it. And then like while I was doing that, people were passing their registry. And then I was kind of like, I actually like really like doing this, So I told my wife Tara that I wanted to create a training program for the hospital. And like I'll just say, hey guys, like tutoring if you want to take the MRI or CT program, the registry. So, I kind of created like this like prototype MRI CT class.
Yeah.
And I just what we started doing was go-to training, and then sort of having like Saturdays, and I'd lecture, which is why I can't stop talking, but for like 4 hours, and people probably got really bored like these, but yeah, so when, those folks took it and they passed, and I was like, oh, great. So then I sort of kind of started getting like nerdy and geeky, and like trying to figure out like how to code my own school, and like maybe I put it online, maybe I record it, maybe I make it self-paced. And then like once I had like the course going and I had a clinical relationship in New York, I was kind of like, well, what if I like got a clinical relationship in every single state? Like then like I'm helping these people. It's obviously working.
Right.
You know, why don't I just start branching out and see what happens? And today we sit here with 650 clinical locations, over 800 techs, and it's just like, you know, and everyone has just been so amazing. Like our tech, like there are so many techs out there that just like want to advance, and they like for any reason they can. And the way I sculpted Pulse or customized it was, you can still do it, you know, if you have children. You can still do it if you have a full-time job. You can still do it if you have 2 jobs. You
Yeah.
know, all you need to do is it's self-paced. If you can find yourself 4 to 5 hours a week, that could be 3 in the morning. That could be whenever you want.
Yep.
While you're eating your Wheaties, it doesn't matter. You know, you can just throw your AirPods in and you listen in, you know, take your
Yep.
test, keep on moving, and then we get into clinical. So, yeah, that's pretty much a long-winded answer, but that's kind
No,
of
I love that. So very organically, really. I mean, people came to you, you started serving them, and then you saw there's clearly a demand, and you
yeah.
just continued to grow. Like the idea just kept getting bigger and bigger. And now look at us. It's awesome. We just had our biggest month, I think, right?
More importantly, we have a podcast.
Woo! I know. Yeah. It's so fun being a part of our team. Like you said earlier, like we truly have such a good team. So I think it's neat too that obviously it started with you and your idea. And then again, I don't know who came when. Like I think I was number 7 or something. We are such a small team, but yeah, it's just neat how, okay, we need someone that can just manage this now. And so you've continued to grow, and that's awesome. So
Yeah, there's pieces that like need more attention, you know. So at me doing a sort of a one-man wrecking band, I noticed that like we needed someone to answer questions when they came in, and then you have Julie. Can we discuss this for a second? Because I remember, and this is how like effective Julie is. I remember I was golfing in Connecticut at Foxwoods. Okay, I will never forget it. And she LinkedIn messaged me, and I was like, I looked at, I was like all these other LinkedIn spam messages.
right.
Sorry, Julie. At one point, you were spam LinkedIn, but but then she like kept on like being like not persistent, but like just under the line of being annoying.
I love it. I love it.
So effective. Like she could, if she just stepped a little bit more, it'd be annoying, but she just kept it right there where it's so engaging that you want to engage with Julie.
Right.
Like what does this girl have to say? You know? And she just sold me, you know, like, and I said, if you can sell me, you know, everything else is butter, you know, like it's gravy, you know, like, and she's so effective. And then, you know, sort of as we grew on, we needed someone to help schedule, you know, clinical. We got Roberta and yourself helping, you know, with as we grew, you know, touching base in Georgia, Massachusetts, now with splitting roles, and then now you have a podcast. Now you're like so cool, and you know, like I don't know, like when you become Kelly Ripa, I would love to apply for the boatsman job and sweep up and wash your boat, and then whatever, stay out of your way, of course. But
No, I would have you to think the whole way. Okay, so what would you say? Not that a ton of techs are going to go out and start their own business, but I am curious because it can apply to anywhere in your life, right? Like starting something new. So even as a new tech, like the hardest part is being quick enough with the patients that you don't have like a backlog of scans and people waiting in your waiting room or something like that. But what was the hardest part starting Pulse Radiology?
yeah, so it kind of is one quote that stuck with me, and it's kind of like that thing that I stare at and say, like when things get tough, and you know, whether it's COVID or whether it's, you know, a student having a hard time or, you know, whatever it is, I always go back to this one thing that my boss said to me, and not, I don't want to say where, but a boss told me this, that when I first started Pulse, they said, you know, I was trying to get like engaged with them, and they said, you know, I'm looking to start this school, and like I've helped these people, and like I want to start something. And I said, what do you think about that? And the first person that person said was 88% of startups fail. So I really want you to know that. And, you know, you have a great job. And, you know, I'm just going to kind of leave it there. And I was just like, oh, all right. Well, now people are like rooting against me. So
Of
now it's
course,
on.
right?
Yeah. Now it's on. So I always say, like, if you have something in your life that you want to do, like, go for it. Like, what is the risk of going out and failing? Like, but but then at the same rate, like the biggest risk is not doing it at all and not even knowing.
Right. And then you
So
have regret and you're always thinking, what if? What if?
right.
Yeah.
So you never know. One person in our program came to me and was like, "Hey, listen, I'm thinking about starting a brewery," and he's like crushing it right now. Like, yeah, because we like spoke about it, and like I talked to the techs about other stuff, not just MRI or CT or mammo,
Right.
but I was like, go for it. Why would you not? Like, go give it a shot. Start small, plant your flag, and just sort of go. And that goes for anything. Opportunity in radiology, go get your MBA. Because if you're not doing it, someone else will. So
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, and I'm such a firm believer in like always bettering yourself, whether it's listening to podcasts. Not that this is maybe that educational, but listening to podcasts, any personal development, like
yeah,
documentaries, whatever. Yeah, going back to school. I love it. That's awesome. Okay, so such good answers, man. This is fun. So where would you say Pulse is now and where do you see us? Because how old is Pulse? You started in 15?
yeah. I
Okay.
started at 15. Again, like I was sort of doing that prototype where we were just sort of training people off loosely. Um, but yeah, so we started like legitimately January 1st, 2016. I built the PowerPoints from about 2012 to about 2000, late 14-ish. So I
Okay.
really put a lot of effort into it. And then, as it went on, I adjusted it and I kept on saying like, no, I can't go live yet. Like it's got to be perfect. And then like one day I was just like, no, let's do it. Let's go.
I love
Um, but yeah, so okay, so where are we now? We're everywhere, number one, which is great. I mean, because we want to be able to provide what I didn't have the opportunity for. Like I'd like find my way out of a trench to find cases, right?
Yes.
So this makes it easy. This makes it, something that you can say, all right, I got what I need. So that's kind of where we are now. We're all over the United States. We're teaching in India, kind of for free. I feel like they need their education over there. What we do have, and actually what we received today, was our provisional licensure from the state of Florida
I love it.
to open Pulse Radiology Institute. And sort of the idea from that is, we have so many people that come through and that put in submissions, and some of them are not techs, so they're not eligible. And, Julie and I, we always talk like, we talk to some really good people, but they're not techs. And that stinks because they could make amazing techs.
Mhm.
And it sort of kind of rung a bell in my mind. Let's see, that was in early 2019.
Okay.
And I was saying to myself, like, we got to do something. And I kind of did a lot of research, and um, I said, let's open up a primary pathway school. Like, let's do it. Like, let's make like an MRI program from the ground up. And it takes a lot of time, it takes a lot of money, and it takes a lot of teamwork. So, we're in sort of the first layer there where it's provisional licensure, where we just virtually opened our school today. We already had 700 people that have submitted applications in the last
Awesome.
2 weeks. So, because a lot of these people that kind of came through, but it's people love it. And so that's sort of number one, Pulse Radiology Institute. For it's basically for anyone who's not an X-ray tech, or an ultrasound or radiation therapist or new med tech. It's sort of to come in, and the people we think are great are like, for example, I met this one guy, Amazon delivery driver, great personality, service industry already, like
Yep.
just why not? Number one. Number two are all these medical assistants that want to advance.
Yeah.
Another one, dental hygienists wanted to shift in their career. So those are the folks that like would probably do best. Anyone in hospitality, like the hotel industry, anything like that would be a great place for a landing. A good landing, soft landing would be Pulse Radiology Institute. Then on the other one is, we have something called Alpha RT, and it's kind of like a tech company. And what we're doing is we're creating a remote clinical resource. So what we can do is have or hire really good MRI and CT techs, and we can virtually connect to like imaging centers that are our partners and like help detect when they're in need. So let's just say you're doing like an MRA runoff, which I had tons of trouble with it. Like I suck at runoffs. And I'd always be like, and like now, like you can just like, if the imaging center partners with Alpha RT, they can just like connect and we can jump on the scanner and like talk them through it. Like, all right, place your slices, 15 degrees, posteriorly or whatever. Open up your slices, open up your field of view. And then, then we can kind of check. There's cameras that can then check the power injector, so we can see like what that looks like. And but yeah, it's kind of really cool. It's sort of another little thing that I'm working on.
I love that. And I mean, if that's not a way in the future, I don't know what is. Like, we live and breathe technology, right? Like in our field, but it's always evolving. And now to be able to scan remotely is just still, to me, it's like mind blowing.
We're also using that service to do sort of a remote clinical training, which I probably should have said. It's sort of a way that it's a partnership with us and Philips, where we can connect to a scanner in Gainesville, and we can scan like a real patient, and we can sort of post. So there's no HIPAA or anything because it's a volunteer patient,
right?
Subcontractor. And then what we would do is, like, I don't know if you ever saw the show The Nick on Cinemax. It's it's old school, took place in like the 1800s when like surgery started coming about, and like, I actually recommend watching the show. If you're in medicine, like if you're an X-ray tech and you like that stuff, you like history, definitely check out The Nick on Cinemax. It's like a show. It's like, like the amphitheaters, and they have all the surgeons that sit in and like watch what they're doing with their mustaches and all that stuff, and, like their canes. Like that. I feel like this is like a virtual, like, I guess, remodel of that, where we're all going to come in on Zoom, that being the amphitheater, and then like one tech is going to be scanning and like communicating. So really a great way to sort of, teach before techs get on site, or even like to essentially get your cases virtually. I don't know, to see what the future brings, right?
Right. And in the middle of a pandemic, if you need to limit people to a clinic, I mean, hello, there are options. Well, do you want to share anything else? I do have one last question, but it's just a quick little wrap-up question. I don't know, is there anything that is on your heart that you want to share with our folks for our first episode?
Well, I got to tell you, it's been sort of a work in progress here, and we finally like launched it. And Kelsey, I think you're doing a great job as a host. Like, it's
Thanks.
It's a nut to though. So just, best of luck from me. I think you're going to do great. I think that there's going to be a lot of technologists interested in coming on, just sort of sharing stories, and you never know where this goes. I think that it's just a really good place for us to talk and, talk tech, right?
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to obviously speaking to people like Mamo. I only know Mamo from when I was in school for like my 1 month there. It probably wasn't even that long. So I'm excited, especially now that I haven't actually been in the clinic for 3 years. And so yeah, it's going to be neat to just connect with people that are in the field, but there's just so many different avenues that we can take in this industry. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to speaking to a number of different people.
Yeah, well, we got a nice little roster for you. So
yeah, we do.
But yeah, that's pretty much it.
Great. Okay, so last question, and I'll let you choose, and this will you'll set the tone. Whatever question you choose is what I'm going to stick with for all of our episodes.
Okay.
You can choose either a piece of advice that you would have given to yourself, obviously starting out in this career, or just something you're grateful for. It doesn't have to be anything obviously imaging related.
I love the whatever we're thankful for. I think that's really kind of cool. It's general, it's not tech, right? It's a great way to end it. Like, what am I thankful for? I'm thankful for a lot of things. I would probably say, sticking to the career path, I think that all of the mentors that I've met over my life, and I'll sort of give shout outs, Mike Guida, Richard Chubel, Carolyn Pierce, all of the techs at HSS, all of the radiologists. It's just been great because like no one, like coming in as a young buck, they don't hate on you. They kind of bring you into their wing because like it's at the end of the day, it's about the patient. It's not about what goes on between us all. It's just like, guys, we got to get the patients done right, and it's like, hey, we're here to help you like get right, you know? So I would say like all the people that mentored me, you know, as I kind of moved up and, you know, those that cheerleaded me along, you know?
I love that. Well, I'm obviously thankful to those people too, because without them forming you, I wouldn't have a Neil. So that's
Right.
awesome. Well, great. Okay. Well, that wraps up our first episode. Hopefully we didn't bore you guys too much and that you will come back next week and see what we've got for our next guest.